Another day, another story. The Russian ruler was mostly known for modernizing her country, and for her long string of palace lovers. The horse? That was a myth. Catherine the Great, also known as Catherine II, was a prominent Russian monarch who ruled from 1762 until her death in 1796. Welcome to Thibaut Eminent Channel. She was born on May 2, 1729, in Stettin, Prussia, now Szczecin, Poland, and her birth name was Sophie Friederike Auguste von Anhalt-Zerbst. Here are some key aspects of Catherine the Great's life and reign. Marriage to Peter III. Catherine married the future Emperor Peter III of Russia in 1745. However, their marriage was troubled, and Peter's rule was unpopular. In 1762, Catherine orchestrated a coup against her husband, leading to his abdication. She then assumed the throne as Empress. Enlightened Despotism. Catherine is often regarded as an enlightened despot. She was influenced by the Enlightenment ideas of reason, education, and progress. During her reign, she implemented a series of reforms aimed at modernizing and westernizing Russia. Domestic reforms. Catherine undertook several domestic reforms in various areas, including government administration, education, and the legal system. She also sought to improve the condition of the serfs, but her efforts in this regard were limited. Expansion of the Russian Empire. Under Catherine's rule, the Russian Empire expanded significantly through military conquests and diplomatic maneuvers. The Crimea was annexed, and the Black Sea region was secured. She also expanded Russia's influence in the Caucasus and Central Asia. Patronage of the arts and culture. Catherine was a patron of the arts and played a significant role in the cultural development of Russia. She corresponded with Enlightenment thinkers such as Voltaire and Diderot, and she supported the arts, literature, and theater. Creation of the Hermitage Museum. Catherine acquired a vast collection of art during her reign, which laid the foundation for the State Hermitage Museum in St. Petersburg. The museum is now one of the largest and most prestigious art and cultural museums in the world. Foreign policy. Catherine engaged in a number of wars during her reign, including the Russo-Turkish War and the Russo-Swedish War. Her military campaigns contributed to the expansion of the Russian Empire. Education and Enlightenment influence. Catherine was well educated and had a keen interest in the Enlightenment ideas that were circulating in Europe during the 18th century. She corresponded with leading Enlightenment thinkers, including Voltaire, and expressed her commitment to the principles of reason, progress, and the well-being of her subjects. Nakas and Legislative Commission. Catherine commissioned the drafting of the Nakas, also known as the Instruction, which was a document outlining the principles for a new legal code. While the Nakas didn't lead to the comprehensive legal reform she intended, it reflected her desire to modernize Russia's legal system. She also convened the Legislative Commission in 1767 to discuss and propose reforms, although the results were limited. Pugachev's Rebellion. One of the challenges during Catherine's reign was the Pugachev Rebellion, 1773-1775, led by Cossack Emelian Pugachev. The rebellion, fueled by dissatisfaction with serfdom and harsh conditions, aimed at overthrowing Catherine's rule. The uprising was eventually suppressed, and Pugachev was captured and executed. The rebellion highlighted the discontent among the lower classes and the limitations of Catherine's efforts to improve their conditions. Art and architecture. Catherine was a great patron of the arts and played a crucial role in the cultural development of Russia. She continued the work of her predecessors in transforming St. Petersburg into a cultural center, inviting artists, architects, and intellectuals to contribute to the city's growth. The neoclassical style became prominent in Russian architecture during her reign. Personal life and relationships. Catherine's personal life was marked by various relationships and liaisons. While she was married to Peter III, she had a number of lovers, including Grigory Orlov and later Grigory Potemkin. Despite her romantic entanglements, Catherine remained a shrewd and capable ruler, navigating the complex political landscape of the Russian court. Legacy and succession. Catherine the Great's reign is often considered a golden age in Russian history. However, her successors faced challenges in maintaining the momentum of her reforms. Her son, Paul I, reversed some of her policies, emphasizing a return to stricter autocracy. Catherine the Great's legacy is multifaceted. While she contributed significantly to the modernization of Russia and its cultural development, her rule also underscores the autocratic nature of the monarchy, with limited impact on the rights and conditions of the majority of the population, particularly the serfs. Catherine the Great is remembered as one of Russia's most successful and influential rulers. Her reign marked a period of cultural growth and political expansion for the Russian Empire. However, her legacy is also debated, as her enlightened reforms were limited in their impact on the lives of the majority of the population, especially the serfs. When Catherine the Great pushed aside her husband to become Russia's ruling empress in 1762, much of Europe viewed the nation as a feudal, backward behemoth. During Catherine's 34-year reign, she left behind a legacy of progress and modernization, and a long string of palace lovers. Historians credit her with expanding Russian borders to include strategic economic seaports and with westernizing the country both politically and economically. Heavily influenced by the Enlightenment, Catherine also championed education and the arts. Here are 8 lesser-known facts about the indomitable Russian Empress. 1. Catherine the Great's name wasn't Catherine, and she wasn't even Russian. The woman whom history would remember as Catherine the Great, Russia's longest ruling female leader, was actually the eldest daughter of an impoverished Prussian prince. Born in 1729, Sophie von Anhalt-Zerbst enjoyed numerous marital prospects due to her mother's well-regarded bloodlines. In 1744, 15-year-old Sophie was invited to Russia by Tsarina Elizabeth, a daughter of Peter the Great who had assumed the Russian throne in a coup just 3 years earlier. The unmarried and childless Elizabeth had chosen her nephew Peter as heir and was now in search of his bride. Sophie, well trained by her ambitious mother and eager to please, made an immediate impact on Elizabeth, if not her intended husband. The marriage took place on August 21, 1745, with the bride, a new convert to Orthodox Christianity, now bearing the name Ekaterina, or Catherine. 2. Catherine's eldest son, and heir, may have been illegitimate. Catherine and her new husband had a rocky marriage from the start. Though the young Prussian princess had been imported to produce an heir, 8 years passed without a child. Some historians believe Peter was unable to consummate the marriage, while others think he was infertile. Desperately unhappy in their married lives, Peter and Catherine both began extramarital affairs, she with Sergei Saltykov, a Russian military officer. When Catherine gave birth to a son, Paul, in 1754, gossips murmured that Saltykov, not Peter, had fathered him. Catherine herself gave credence to this rumor in her memoirs, going so far as to say that Empress Elizabeth had been complicit in permitting Catherine and Saltykov's relationship. While historians today believe that Catherine's claims were simply an attempt to discredit Peter and that he was indeed Paul's father, there is little debate over the paternity of Catherine's 3 additional children. It's believed that none of them were fathered by Peter. 3. Catherine came to power in a bloodless coup that later turned deadly. Elizabeth died in January 1762, and her nephew succeeded to the throne as Peter III, with Catherine as his consort. Eager to put his own stamp on the nation, he quickly ended Russia's war with Prussia, an act that proved deeply unpopular to Russia's military class. A program of liberal domestic reforms aimed at improving the lives of the poor also alienated members of the lower nobility. These unhappy factions turned to Catherine, who was also fearful of Peter's intentions. As tensions mounted, a plan to overthrow Peter took root. When the conspiracy was uncovered in July 1762, Catherine moved quickly, gaining the support of the country's most powerful military regiment and arranging for her husband's arrest. On July 9, just 6 months after becoming Tsar, Peter abdicated, and Catherine was proclaimed sole ruler. However, what had begun as a bloodless coup soon turned deadly. On July 17, Peter died, possibly at the hands of Alexei Orlov, the brother of Catherine's current lover Gregory. Though there is no proof that Catherine knew of the alleged murder before it happened, it cast a pall over her reign from the start. 4. Catherine faced more than a dozen uprisings during her reign. Of the various uprisings that threatened Catherine's rule, the most dangerous came in 1773, when a group of armed Cossacks and peasants led by Emelian Pugachev rebelled against the harsh socio-economic conditions of Russia's lowest class, the serfs. As with many of the uprisings Catherine faced, Pugachev's rebellion called into question the validity of her reign. Pugachev, a former army officer, claimed that he was actually the deposed, and believed dead, Peter III, and therefore the rightful heir to the Russian throne. Within a year, Pugachev had drawn thousands of supporters and captured a large amount of territory, including the city of Kazan. Initially unconcerned about the rebellion, Catherine soon responded with massive force. Faced with the might of the Russian army, Pugachev's supporters eventually deserted him, and he was captured and publicly executed in January 1775. 5. Being Catherine the Great's lover came with huge rewards. Catherine was famously loyal to her lovers, both during their relationship and after it ended. Always parting on good terms, she bestowed upon them titles, land, palaces and even people, gifting one former paramour with more than 1,000 serfs, or indentured servants. But perhaps nobody reaped the bounties of her favor more than Stanislaw Poniatowski, one of her earliest lovers and the father of one of her children. A member of the Polish nobility, Poniatowski first became involved with Catherine, who was not yet on the throne, when he served in the British embassy to St. Petersburg. Even after a scandal partly caused by their relationship forced him from the Russian court, they remained close. In 1763, long after their relationship had ended and a year after she had come to power, Catherine successfully threw her support, both military and financial, behind Poniatowski in his effort to become King of Poland. However, once installed on the throne, the new king, who Catherine and others believed would be a mere puppet to Russian interests, began a series of reforms meant to strengthen his country's independence. What was once a strong bond between the two former lovers soon soured, with Catherine forcing Poniatowski to abdicate and Russia leading the effort to break up and dissolve the newly formed Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth. 6. Catherine saw herself as an enlightened ruler. Catherine's reign was marked by vast territorial expansion, which greatly added to Russia's coffers but did little to alleviate the suffering of her people. Even her attempts at governmental reforms were often bogged down by Russia's vast bureaucracy. However, Catherine considered herself to be one of Europe's most enlightened rulers, and many historians agree. She wrote numerous books, pamphlets and educational materials aimed at improving Russia's education system. She was also a champion of the arts, keeping up a lifelong correspondence with Voltaire and other prominent minds of the era, creating one of the world's most impressive art collections in St. Petersburg's Winter Palace, now home to the famed Hermitage Museum, and even trying her hand at composing opera. 7. Contrary to popular myth, Catherine died a fairly mundane, uneventful death. Given the Empress' shocking reputation, it's perhaps not surprising that gossip followed her wherever she went, even to the grave. After her death on November 17, 1796, her enemies at court began spreading various rumors about Catherine's final days. Some claimed that the all-powerful ruler had died while on the toilet. Others took their lurid storytelling even further, perpetuating a myth that has endured for centuries: that Catherine, whose lustful life was an open secret, had died while engaging in a sex act with an animal, usually believed to be a horse. Of course, there is no truth to this rumor. Though her enemies would have hoped for a scandalous end, the simple truth is that Catherine suffered a stroke and died quietly in her bed the following day. 8. Catherine's eldest son met the same grisly fate as his father. Catherine had a famously stormy relationship with her eldest son, Paul. The boy had been removed from his mother's care shortly after his birth and raised largely by the former Tsarina, Elizabeth, and a series of tutors. After she assumed the throne, Catherine, fearful of retribution for Peter III's deposition and death, kept Paul far away from affairs of state, further alienating the boy. Relations between the two grew so bad that Paul was at times convinced his mother was actively plotting his death. While Catherine had no such plans, she did fear that Paul would be an incompetent ruler and looked for alternate options for succession. Thanks for watching. Request you to subscribe the channel.